And we are back. How is everyone doing? I hope for those who enjoyed Chapter 10, and Chapter 10 was how to remove emotional scars and give yourself a spiritual facelift, was an enjoyable topic of conversation. And if you're just joining us now and this sounds like a bunch of things that are confusing and that you've never heard of, there is a rhyme and a reason to that. So, first off, for those that know the drill, go ahead and fast forward to about a minute 30. For those that don't, my name is Nick Kleitch. I'm the creator of the Life with Nick YouTube channel and the host of the Life with Nick podcast. I'm not going to spend too much time diving into that today. If you would not mind, I'd strongly encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, check out my intro video that will lay out everything, and you can decide if I am for you or not. But thank you for tuning in. If you are curious about what you are kind of watching right now, and this is the first time you're seeing me, we are diving into the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Just concluded chapter 10. This video will be chapter 11, discussing how to unlock your real personality. So again, for the people that have been reading along, we'll dive in. If you haven't, this would be a great time to head over to the intro video and catch a glimpse of what we're going to be discussing here, but also throughout the whole channel. So we just concluded the episode, I keep saying episode, I'm meaning chapter, of course, on emotional pain and how emotional pain can impact us, how to heal from emotional pain, how forgiveness can be leveraged, all that good stuff. So again, that was kind of a subset to the overall flight path that is this book. Chapter 11, How to Unlock Your Real Personality, will also be a little bit of a subset, kind of littering in other subtopics to the grander whole that is self-image. And so this one will be probably a shorter one in comparison, and it goes into the chapter. Reading it is, to me, a little bit old school in the sense of how Dr. Maltz describes it, and so I'm going to try to modernize the points that he's trying to make. That way we can just get a kind of reminder, but also a definition of how to unlock your real personality as it pertains to the general scope of psycho-cybernetics. So essentially, how to unlock your real personality here. So personality, in essence, is just what we are. It is the makeup of all of our experiences combined with what it is that we want to do with our lives and really how we want to express ourselves. There's not really a right or wrong personality. This isn't a black and white definition. This is a very colorful definition as it pertains to each unique human being. It simply is who we become, and again, how we express ourselves to the world. Personality is both a magnetic and mysterious force and focus, and it is released from within ourselves into the world. So personality essentially is the outward evidence of that unique and individual creative self. So if we were all robots and moving around as robots, we wouldn't have much of a personality, right? Everything would be very black and white. That would make for a very, very boring world. Personality, in my opinion, is what brings color into the frame. We have to have a main frame, of course, in terms of how we operate, in terms of how the world works, governing laws, governing nature, forces, all this stuff. But we have to splash some color in there, and that is personality, and that's what makes me really excited. So, from our creator, it is kind of the freest and full expression of ourselves. A strong personality can have a strong impact and influence on other people. And when we take the time over the course of our lives to really understand ourselves and really tune into who we are and what we want out of life, we can't help but not express ourselves to the world and express our personality. There was an example in the book of a child, specifically a baby, and it went to the extent of this. So a baby, for example, is the purest form of a human, right? It doesn't care what people think. It doesn't care where it goes to the bathroom. It doesn't care if it cries or not. In essence, it's just expressing itself in its emotional honesty, and the baby just simply is existing. And so that is, in essence, what personality is. It just is in existence. So here, diving into some of the notes that I have drawn up, this is where if you read along, this is not going to maybe correlate that much, but I wanted to, again, modernize some things. So everyone has personality locked up within themselves. So every human being has a personality. You might go, okay, Nick, that sounds obvious. Okay. However, when we say that someone has a good personality, what we're really saying is that he or she is very free and freed to release the creative potential within themselves, and they express that in a free manner. So basically, they're kind of a lot in the sense of, okay, they have different opinions, they have different abilities, they have different moldings, different experiences, and they're able to express that freely without the fear of offending other people. And I say that very particularly because, again, if you're very in tune with your self-acceptance, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and how you're trying to genuinely interact with the world, it comes out in a strong positive force. And so just because you're around people that may freely express themselves in a way that you deem inappropriate, that could be them just fully expressing who they are, and they have the right to do that in the beautiful country that is the United States of America. So getting back to the cliff notes here, a poor personality, it's the opposite of a good, strong personality, is someone who has inhibited their full expression. Now, when it says poor, I'm saying in the spectrum of full expression to completely unable to express themselves. So they're handcuffed, they're locked up, and they really don't take the time to understand who they really are, and they don't express themselves freely to the world. Now, that may be their prerogative. However, for them to get to the full expression of life, they would want to go through to be able to fully express their personality as they grow and develop their personality over their years. So, as we just spoke about emotional toughness and healing, when someone freely expresses themselves, there is risk in this, obviously. They can be judged, they can be exposed, they can be commented on negatively, or maybe even forced away from the group because of that freedom of expression. So that is the cost in which you do take if you are freely expressive of who you are, what you believe, and all that good stuff. Now, that being said, this could be coming from jealousy in terms of the other person not having the ability to fully express themselves, or not having the limiting belief of fully expressing themselves. So just because someone is fully expressing themselves does not necessarily mean that they're weird, though a lot of people coin it that way. They just may have not the self-confidence to really go out there and not care what other people think in relative terms to social interaction, to just say, hey, this is me living very creatively and free. So as we work to develop our personality, at times we'll be off course. In layman's terms, as we go through middle school, high school, college, and as we're in adults, there's a lot of effect from our environment as we're developing our personality. The journey itself of self-discovery is in fact a journey. And so I wrote in the reference, like, a good movie always has a period where the main character is forced to discover their purpose and discover themselves. They go through good times, bad times, everything in between. However, at the end of the journey, when they do find themselves, everyone cheers because they've kind of discovered the purpose and now they're leading the charge, or they're not running away from who they are and they're fully embracing it. And so it's funny because we watch movies about these things, and yet we as people in real time don't take the time to go through and understand what we believe in, understand what we stand for, understand what we think is funny, and have a full level of expression into the world. And then we do so because we're afraid, right? We're afraid to be judged. We're afraid to be exposed. We're afraid to be, made fun of, all that stuff. However, if you are completely in tune with yourself, even if some of that stuff comes at you, you're able to kind of move on and say, well, that wasn't a situation for me, but that doesn't mean I'm going to negate from the fact that I want to express my full personality. So I say this to say that when we go through the process of self-discovery throughout life, we will make mistakes and be judged and criticized, and that's okay. This will hurt, but yet we can correct course, and we must always move forward in the process in terms of the development versus what people want us to do. So as you're going through the middle school, high school, college, adulthood phases, there's this heavy influence that is kind of molding your personality. You don't fully know this maybe through that time. And so it's easy to do what people want of us versus what we think is the best and most full expression, again, of who we are. And so if you're someone that has gone through that and you feel like you haven't found that for yourself, I'd encourage you to kind of go pen to paper and say, hey, here are some of the characteristics of who I want to be. I want to be this. I want to be that. I want to have this. I want to have that. And that combination of creating the new self-image and working on your emotional regularity and holding yourself accountable, and also just expressing what you like in terms of your hobbies and your passions and all this other stuff. All of that is ingredients that make who you are as a person, and we want to push away what people want us to do, because we want to become the full expression of ourselves. Okay, so this bleeds into the next point, which is in terms of self-expression. So we not only have the path of self-discovery, where there's a lot of heavy influences of us adapting to different situations to be liked or whatnot, versus our true development. Within that, we're guilty of modifying our true selves to be likable, relatable, and fit into the norm. It can be intense at times if you're an outcast of culture, friends, and society, when you're trying to go through the self-discovery of figuring out your real personality. So I say that just to say very bluntly, like if you're someone in the process of redefining yourself or trying to figure out who you are, there is always a temptation to modify to be liked by XYZ group. So this is not just a you problem, it is just human nature, right? We don't want to be outcast from our societal norms and our groups, but there will be times as you're developing yourself and what you, again, believe in and what you stand for and what you like and don't like, you'll have resistance and judgment of others. And so it's not so much that the judgment is a bad thing, it's just that they're expressing it into your aura. You have the opportunity to say, okay, because they said that at work, I'm going to completely adjust who I am. Or you can say, hey, that's a comment coming in. We can agree to disagree, and I'm going to maintain the structure of what I have built on up until this point. All right. Hopefully this is all making sense. I know I'm being slightly redundant, but the point being that A, we want to go through self-discovery to develop a personality or build on our current personality, and B, a lot of influence that can come. So do we want to be liked for the sake of being liked, or do we want to persist and be consistent on being the full and best version of ourselves? So if you're going through that and there are people that are not supportive, then you need to find some new people that will be supportive of you. So if they're judging you and making fun of you, then probably they're not the best influence as you're going through this path of self-discovery. So that's just kind of a piece to the pie there. We want to find people that are supportive of the best versions of ourselves. Okay. So this is more of a direct example of just how an exchange would go in a social context. So a specific social example of us continuing to develop our personality. So any sort of social relationship or situation, we are constantly receiving positive and negative feedback from our peers. And this happens just as we interact with the world. A laugh, a smile, an awkward silence, subtle cues of approval, disapproval, lack of interest, major engagement, and what we're saying and contributing to the group. We're all trying to fit in, right? So we're going to modify what we say into a group setting to make sure that we're liked and accepted. Now, that's like the easiest kind of middle school, high school format. This is where, as you get to a certain point when you're more fully developed, you're going to input as you're inputting, but you're not really going to care what the opinions are of others to an extent, because that's just who you are, right? You're expressing yourself fully versus saying it for the sake of the group to think you're funny, right? So all of that feedback coming in and in and out, we must learn to, again, stand our ground in some areas, but then adapt to some negative feedback. So if you're trying to work on a certain personality trait of being more open-minded or whatever, you can kind of go out and battle test that in different social situations to see if, like, oh, that didn't really feel good or go well. Maybe I could try that again. If it goes poorly again, then okay, maybe that's just not the direction I want to go. Or, hey, this is something that I like and people have been accepting of it and I like it, so I'm going to continue to push that way. This is just that back and forth toggle that we'll always go through as, again, we're continuing to mold and finesse our personality. Without that back and forth communication and feedback, we would never get a chance to develop our personality. Our personality is how, again, we are interacting with the world. So if we have no world to interact with, no personality can really be formed. So people with strong social ability, People with strong social ability and personality, people who are magnetic and appear confident, can sense communication from others and react creatively. So not only when you're kind of well-rounded in terms of your self-acceptance of yourself, and confidence, esteem, all of that good stuff, you're able to just kind of exist in a comfortable manner versus trying to win the approval of others. So one way to think of this like general frame of reference here is take like a really talented stand-up comedian. So like when they're at the peak of their career, they are forced to entertain thousands of people at one time, right? It's just them with the microphone and they got to entertain all these people. And so they have to be super in tune with their environment. But because they have the ability, because of years of experience, but also their well-developed personality, they can really read the situation and respond appropriately to all these people. And that just goes to show like when you're well put together, and of course in the comedic sense have good stand-up bits, you can really drive and influence and impact a room because of your experiences and who you are and how you make people laugh, let's say in this context, how you lead people, how you teach people, how you inform people. There's a million different ways that can go, but that's just kind of the pinnacle of like, wow, thousands of people are essentially in the same room being entertained by one, and that's kind of the epitome of full-on personality. So hopefully that all makes sense. And then we're just kind of getting rounded out here. So sometimes we can get in our own head when it comes to being socially accepted. Oftentimes people will stay, very reserved or to themselves to limit the risk of being judged or criticized or made fun of. And that's fine. However, if that's not who you are or you're just doing it for the sake of not being judged, then that can eventually lead to diminishing your ability to express yourself. Because if you're in those situations and you never input anything, let's say, then you're kind of training yourself to say, hey, in these certain situations, I just don't say anything. That's just not who I am. That's not necessarily true. You're just afraid of potentially being judged or, rejected or whatever it is. And so I wouldn't say that every once in a while you have to kind of come out of your shell a little bit and say, this is what I think about this, or, express your opinion on something or express your ideas on some of that stuff, because you're just, again, working to find what that personality fit is, what that personality mold is. And that's very good, even if you get some negative feedback, because you can go, okay, well, that worked, that didn't work, X, Y, Z. So being liked versus being who you are is the battle that we face. And to be honest, the more, again, self-expressive you can be, the more risk there is of being disliked or judged. Now, the other side of the coin says, if you're fully expressive and it works well, like the comedian, you can really crush, right? And people think that you're super awesome and that you got a great sense of humor and a great perspective. So you really just have to mold this over time to kind of figure out where you are at in this lane. But then outside of the lane, like just continue to work to broaden your, personality, broaden your perspective, get some new skills, read a couple new books, go do some new things. Like just have a lot of points of reference to interact with people as you are interacting with people. Okay, this will be the final piece. And as promised, this is a shorter video on how to unlock your personality. So we're looking for balance and harmony in terms of trial and error, developing what you think is cool and what you want versus what works well in a social capacity. So that's what we're looking to achieve. Our overall goal in the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, is to have an adequate, self-fulfilling, creative personality. Again, fully in tune with ourselves to be able to express that in a creative way. The path to achieving this is to battle test your personality throughout life, essentially. There's no shame in changing yourself if you want to change different things about your personality, if you feel change is necessary. However, you should never change who you are at your core for anyone, because that means you're not fully expressing who you are to the world and to them, and that's not fair to you and that's not fair to them. Full expression of yourself will lead you to where you're supposed to be in life in terms of your friends, your career, personal happiness, etc. So as we round out this video, I would encourage you to take more risks out there to really kind of figure out what it is that you like and dislike, what are you into, and kind of, if you need to, redefine yourself and your personality. Because if you think about it, the world needs what you have in the sense of your perspective and what you like and what you dislike. That's the beauty of us being able to actually fully express ourselves, is saying, hey, we're all going to live life. There's this big one common theme that everyone has, right? We're all living life and we're all interacting with each other, and it does no good to just sit on the sidelines of life just for the sake of sitting on the sidelines. So if that's you, get out there, have some fun, battle test some new personality things, and or continue to refine your personality. And in doing so, that will improve your self-image because you're more in tune with your full self-expression. So anyways, I appreciate you guys checking out chapter 11. We're going to continue into chapter 12 and continue on with Psycho-Cybernetics. Thanks, guys and girls. Appreciate you.